No hometown.
They do have one, though.
Do they? Oh! Hello and welcome to the 26th best baseball team by you, the people's rankings, the Athletics, the A's. We're gonna have to rewind a lot of this. Although so far they're our biggest riser. They were 30th in last year's TPPs. They're up to 26, and it's because they had some young guys break out offensively. They were 8th in home runs last year. Did you know? A lot of the other statistics are not that great, and there's a lot else going on with this team that is transforming them, just like DirecTV can transform your baseball watching experience. Head to directtv.com to learn more. Trev, if I remember correctly, there's some parts in.
There are some parts in, and for context, there had to be
right.
some parts in, or else there would have been a grievance filed by the MLBPA and I believe Major League Baseball, where they would not participate in the revenue sharing program,
right?
Which is a big thing for them. So they had to spend some money, and spend some money they did, Jake. Who can forget that classic picture of Luis Severino decked out in his designer clothes overlooking Sutter Field? I can't. He signed 3 years, 67 M's, 2027 player option. Jose Leclerc, a big swing and miss relief pitcher, formerly of the Texas Rangers, 1 year, 10. Your guy, my guy, Gio Urshela, is there on a 1 year, $2.1 million deal. They also traded for Jeffrey Springs from Tampa. Love that for them to add to their rotation. They got a swing guy also from Tampa Bay, Jacob Lopez, Johnny Parada from Miami, a catcher. And then they brought in a guy off waivers, Justin Sterner, a relief pitcher. And then you're going to love this name, Rule 5 draft pick, Noah Murdoch. So they brought some guys in. They re-signed TJ McFarland. I like what they brought in, Jake. Who have they lost, though?
Man, Kyle Mueller was a nice trade piece at one point. He's going to the NPB. Don't be surprised if he ends up on the Brewers in a couple years and pitches very well for them. Joe Boyle. I want everyone to circle that name. This dude has stuff. He got traded to Tampa. Struggled last year. Don't trade with Tampa. And then a couple of Nick Allen was playing some defense for them. Daz Cameron on Baseball Family. Austin Adams, Ross Stripling still unsigned. Scott Alexander, Alex Wood. So they lost some arms, but they brought in some arms. And Trev, the lineup, hope.
There is hope in the lineup. And again, this is from Fangraphs, their projected lineup. Scott Lawrence Butler, my guy, our guy that we hung out with, what was that, Seattle?
Yeah.
All-Star game? Became fast friends. He had an unbelievable second half after getting demoted, made some swing changes. He'll be there in right field. Brent Rooker, y'all know him. An absolute stud. Eat your words, foolish Bailey, you loser. Center field, JJ Bleday. Shea Langelier is behind the plate. Tyler Soderstrom at first base. Zach Geloff at second base. Seth Brown out there in the outfield. Gio Urshela will be at third base. And possibly, and this is maybe one of the biggest, like, hey, man, like, this could make or break the team. Jacob Wilson.
Yeah.
Shortstop, Jack Wilson's son. That's projected to be their lineup. On the bench, Miguel Andujar, your guy. Catcher Johnny Parada. Outfielder Asterio Ruiz, who, like, stole 1 million bags, then mysteriously just didn't play last year. It just was off the team. That's interesting. Max Schumann, some names to watch. Third base, Brett Harris. Infielder, Daryl Hernandez. Don't know if I smashed that one. And then also first baseman, Nick Kurtz. Jake, so that's kind of like who they got in the lineup, who's on their bench and the depth pieces. What do they got in that rotation and in the bullpen?
You mentioned my guy, Sevy. Nice bounce back year with the Mets last year. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more in the tank there. It felt like he got lost for a little bit, and it feels like he's finding it. A guy who found it for a little bit, Jeffrey Springs from Tampa. This was one of the weird ones of the offseason. and a little righty-lefty 1-2 punch. And then it's the young guys, J.P. Sears, who's become a reliable option for Oakland. Joey Estes, hair flowing. He was tapping into some stuff later in the season. Mitch Spence put together 151 innings for them. And then you'll see some guys that got action last year. JT Ginn, Osvaldo Bido. We'll see if Brady Basso gets the call and a couple other guys. And then in that bullpen, Ian Mason Miller, you should probably get familiar. Jose Leclerc, like you said, setting him up. TJ McFarland came back. Otanez, Ferguson, Hogan Harris. They've got a back end, and they'll have some bodies figuring it out the rest of the way. That I don't know, man. The A's, not the Oakland Athletics. I'm interested to see how you hop around, Trev, because it feels like we're grading them on a different scale. Sometimes, like this team is back-to-back with the Halos. They were our last team in the rankings. Yet this team, if you didn't know what was happening off the field, I think you'd be like, yeah, man, that some young guys in the lineup broke out last year and they added some guys to the rotation. But the off-the-field stuff just throws you off in such a weird way that it's like, okay, maybe it congeals them. That's not the what's the sports term we use when a team comes together? Galvanizes. Maybe it galvanizes them and they become like a made-for-TV movie. The A's, they didn't have a home, but they won baseball games. Or it could just be like a sad, weird year.
What does Matthew McConaughey say?
All right.
Time is a flat circle.
Oh, yeah, I like
this
that.
This is the A's, baby. We got some young guys with some talent. We got some question marks. We got another strange field to play at. This is what the A's do, Jake. They rinse and repeat. I'm sure, and let's get to 2025 in a sec. I'm sure in 2028, we're going to be like, holy crap, these guys got some talent. They'll probably trade them away, and then we'll start the whole dang thing over with. It's just happened time and time again. I really like this group of guys. How long can they keep them all together? I think realistically, that's kind of like the question. Maybe for the future of the A's. They got some real talent. Jake, over the last 76 games, 39 and 37, 2 games over 5. They only ended up winning 69 games last year because they started out so poorly, but they started to gel. I mean, we talked about, Butler finding his stroke, figuring it out. Brent Rooker had a career year, parlayed that into an extension. Like, they have guys that have come up and done well, and they still have more. Lane Jalires, Blade has done great. Obviously, Mason Miller camp and lit the world on fire. They have real deal talent on this team. It's. I think, is it enough for them to? I mean, look. If you were to tell me in August that the A's were within striking distance of a wild card, I wouldn't bat an eye. Would you?
I'd bat an eye, but I wouldn't be.
I would say we've seen this before.
Well, you mentioned A's history. Like, it's kind of a cycle. The time is a flat circle. Like, they go missing for 3 to 6 years, and then you see this young, talented A's team that you're like, that team's kind of nice. And this is a pivot year that, is it going to be that boy nice, or is it going to be, yeah?
I mean, well, I guess we got to play the games,
right.
Bob. Yeah, again, I think really what we're looking at here is a team that has, I would say, a lineup that you can really like get behind, like a young, exciting lineup. Pieces in the bullpen. Would you wish they didn't trade Lucas Ursich? Like, that would be nice to have him back there with Mason Miller, right? But that's what they do. They trade away pieces to bring in other stuff. I would say rotation-wise, obviously you add a few names there. Is it, what is Seve going to do? I think he's obviously a high ceiling, probably a low floor type of guy with some injury history. But when he's on, he's absolutely filthy.
Yeah,
he can be an ace. We saw, I think the offense is where you have to start with this team. Now, Dalton Feely, researcher extraordinaire, asked the question on our sheet. Is there a way that Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, J.J. Bleday, and Shea Langeliers could be one of the Major League Baseball's best offensive core fours? To that, I'd say probably not. But the fact that we're even kind of like thinking about this just shows you there's real talent on this team.
Yes, and again, Soderstrom, guy was a real prospect, first round pick. He came up, hit a little bit. So, of all these teams that you go around the horn and you're like, hey, it's a mix of young talent and the veterans have to do their thing in health. They have young talent around. Langeliers has been at it and is going to come near the 30 homer mark if he's healthy. That right side of the infield is really interesting to me. Geloff, he had the juice. He lost the juice. Soderstrom, are the A's going to end this year and be like, hey, we've got the right side of our infield for the next 4 years? Or are we going to be talking about something else? Because we would have said that with Ryan Noda a couple years ago. So, but I think it's pretty cool. Brent Rooker has happened. Like I mentioned it on a Talkin' Baseball episode. 9 guys had OPS above 900. Brent Rooker was one of those guys. It's with all the names you know. Lawrence Butler was nasty. J.J. Bleday had a ton of extra base hits that, I'm going to be honest, for those young guys in the path of baseball, you see guys take the leap and it all clicked and it happened, and that's awesome. You also see young guys that have a little bit, the league adjusts back, and then we end up somewhere else. So that's what we need to find out for these young Oakland Athletic. They're not Oakland. They're not Oakland, Jake. They're just athletic.
Let's get into a little bit of where they're going to play, because I think that is pertinent information. It could actually lead to more offensive output. So some of these numbers at the end of next year could be better for Lawrence Butler, for Brent Rooker, guys that have power. It's supposed to be a very hitter-friendly park. I was telling you, Sacramento gets hot in the summer. The ball's probably going to be flying there. Do you know what, like, the numbers actually for Lawrence Butler at the end of the season? Because they're pretty eye-popping.
Let's hear it.
Final 73 games. 302 batting average. 346 on base percentage, which is, it's okay for a 302. 597 slug. He hit 20 homers, 18 doubles, 2 triples. He had 50 runs driven in, 14 stolen bases over the final 73 games. Let's extrapolate that. Let's just say he plays 146 games. If we can duplicate that, we're talking about a 40-30 guy, essentially.
Yeah.
That's a star.
Right. And I think
so.
That's the point why Dalton put it in the sheet. Like, let's say Brent Rooker's locked, which I believed in. I begged every team in baseball to trade for him. The A's
35 homers, lock.
I think he is that guy. People could still have their questions, but I think he deserves the credit. Let's say Lawrence Butler is, and Langeliers in the catching world, which again, that's on a different scale, can be really good. That if 1 or 2 breakouts happen, we are talking about a lineup, which, again, coming from the 50 and 112 A's of a couple years ago, we didn't really dream of. A couple stats, I feel like Dalton, he's made this great sheet for us, and sometimes we've missed some things that people might like as tidbits. The rotation last year had the highest ERA on the road. Okay, and that's a reminder, as you said, they'll be in Sacramento this year. Oakland, obviously a pitcher's park in recent history because of all the foul territory. You sneak a couple outs that way. So that's going to be something to watch for the pitchers and the hitters. The lineup has room to grow. They slugged the least on pitches out of the zone. Okay, don't do that. And the lineup struck out 28% with runners in scoring position, the highest in the American League. So there's this is a big glass half full, glass half empty team for me. And it's okay, there's young talent, there's room to improve. Like this could be an upward trajectory with the things going on off the field, changing stadiums, a couple young guys like Zach Geloff last year. We were all sorts of hyped. Look at what he showed us. Tough sophomore campaign. Who is going to be that for the Athletics this year? Or do those guys bounce back and we're looking at a really good baseball team? I tend to agree with you. I feel like there's going to be summer talking baseball episodes where we're like, the A's are 4 games out of the wild card, and we'll look at each other and we're elbow. It just feels we're still team profile and protection wise, we're going to get into a different level of baseball.
I think this is way too low for them, if I'm being honest. I do.
Okay.
I'm the first person to come and well, maybe I'm not the first person to come like bash a team. I don't really do that often. I try not to. I try to find the positives, but with the A's, I feel like there's times where you have to call it like it is. And right now, I just don't. I don't really have like a horrible feeling towards them. In fact, I'm pretty excited to watch this team play next year. I think so we talked about the offense a lot. I think talking about the rotation, Sevy has upside. We've seen him do it. Can he stay healthy? Jeffrey Springs has a track record, man. Like he is going to give you good innings. JP Sears, I called him the Kyle Gibson of the A's because he's just as consistent as possible. So like that is a nice guy that has a decent floor on him. And then it's kind of like, what can you get on the back end of the rotation? Because that's very important there. I think these guys, I think they are going to hit, Jake. I know last year overall the numbers are atrocious for them. The only thing they were decent at was homers and stolen bases. Everything else was bottom 20th or 25th and above in all the team rankings. I think they're going to do much better than that this year. So the offense is greatly going to improve. Can the rotation and the bullpen follow? If we have, and this is like, people, if everyone improves, obviously, yeah. If we take steps forward in those 3 categories, then I truly do think that we were at one point. I don't know what point of the season it's going to be, but I believe past the All-Star break, we'll be talking about the A's like, man, they're like kind of right there.
I think a little bit what you're alluding to there, of a couple of the teams coming up, I think the Athletics have a little more hope. I think they have a little more ceiling. And it's everything we've talked about with the young guys. But also,
are you calling out our listeners?
No, because they could also be right. I mean, it's tough to be a young, good baseball player that, this A's season could also go off the goddamn rails, dude. Your games may be canceled because of heat. Like you talked about Sacramento and playing on turf. Like there's going to be games, like some guys might not be able to play because of the heat. So we're dealing in a totally different realm. I do want to say the Jeffrey Springs transaction, that one was under the radar. Trev, in his last 229 innings of baseball, he has a 2.63 ERA. Like, if that happens, if Big Sevy can be an innings eater for them and a couple of their young arms take off, then you're talking about every aspect. Like, do I have something on the back end that can end a game? Yep. Maybe the best guy in the game. Do I have some pitchers that can click it to start off games? Yep. Do I have some hit? Like, there's going to be other teams coming up that feel safer, and it probably are. But there's a little bit of potential here that I hope it becomes a made-for-TV movie, and we're talking about Mark Kotsay rallying the guys.
Wouldn't you love to see the World Series at Sutter Park in Sacramento? I mean, come on. I'm just saying hypothetically.
It'd be wild.
It'd be wild.
It'd be good for it'd be like one of those, like a 1970s movie where you see people sitting in trees and stuff to watch the game. It'd be kind of sick, but also probably not great.
Last year Sacramento had its most ever days over 100 degrees with 45 days. It's a new record for the city. So put in terms of, they kind of have to. I guess I get what they're saying because they are playing the River Cats, the AAA affiliate there, and the A. So it's going to equate to almost 150 games. Very difficult to keep the field at what I guess you'd call a big league level ready field. But my, oh my, you're talking 100 degrees on some turf. You will just It's not going to be good, and that is another thing to watch.
Are they sharing a dugout with the River Cats? Is that what you're telling me?
They're sharing. I'm assuming they're going to build offsite. I don't know. I mean, I guess we could look it up. I'm assuming they're building offsite locker rooms because they have to like improve this facility to get it major league ready. I'm assuming there's going to be some offsite locker.
Rob?
Okay.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah. So just if you want to go in and use the restroom, just run the center.
Yeah. Hey, and Trev, I know we mentioned them quickly, but like they've got other prospects on the way. Like Nick Kurtz, Jacob Wilson, you mentioned. Your guy Max Muncy reminds you of young you. Did you say that before?
I did say that. I love me some Max Muncy. Shout out the Valley or Thousand Oaks.
And
Close enough.
It'd be nice to have another Max Muncy and just keep that going. With all that being said, let's get to the DraftKings over, under, and hey, Sacto. They play some hoops there. They just made some moves. With the NBA season upon us, get in on the action at the DraftKings Sportsbook right now. All new customers who bet just $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you use code TALKIN. From Monster Slams to Dishing the Rock to Cleaning the Glass. Get behind your favorite players and prop bets that you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use code TALKIN. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code TALKIN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. What's that over-under, Coach?
DraftKings has this over-under at 71.5. I'm riding the wave. It could be recency bias, but I'm riding that A's wave, dude. As a former A myself, number 3, people hated that I took that number, Jake. They were like, you were not Eric Chavez.
Oh.
Didn't even think about it. I just liked it from when I was young.
Nice number.
I stunk. I'm sorry, guys, but I did prepare Matt Chapman and Matt Olson to stay there for a little bit, and they did great. I'm taking the over. I think this team will improve. I'm going to put their in T Plouffe rankings. I'm going to put them at 75 win team.
That feels right. I'm wondering if there's risk, if I'm not equating the risk right, because I'm also leaning over. I don't know. Like, even I don't hate their bench right now. Estuary Ruiz, like going back to the
on the team,
back to the bad A's. He was supposed to be like their best player, and now, okay, is he just gonna run around for them if they need him?
He had 55 at bats last year.
There's a full story missing.
He had 500 plate appearances the year before and stole 67 bases, and the next year did not play. There's got to be something going on. Mark Kotze, let me know, baby. Shout out Mark, by the way. Love me some Mark.
Yeah,
Kotze.
okay.
That's a dog right there.
Then you just locked me in on the over. Because they've changed this team a little bit. I think for 1 year, this year in Sacramento, with all their young talent, I think it's going to be fun and kind of weird and wow, this is crazy. I think that'll wear off pretty soon. It might even wear off in the middle of this season, but I think having Kotze, having been there for a while, having this young talent, I like the over. Why not? How about that for the A's? Let us know what you think, and if you're ready to transform your baseball watching experience, head to directv.com to learn more. Let's see who's next.